It's time now for our 360 round. Let's bring in our panel to discuss Nvidia, continuing to trade lower today after the October highs and the strong earnings report we saw from the tech giant. Joining us now to discuss more, Austin Lyons, the senior analyst at Creative Strategies, and Logan Gilland, an analyst at Jewel Financial. Thank you both for being with us. We've gotten a series of headlines over Nvidia, but let's start with their earnings. I mean, they had arguably blowout earnings. We're now seeing record revenue, massive beat here, but we're still seeing the stock about 15% off of those highs. Austin, as you look at this, is Nvidia okay, or is Nvidia at risk in this, continued downward movement and volatility we're seeing?
Hey, Marley. So Nvidia is doing great. Like you said, earnings were a blowout. And if we look to hyperscalers earnings calls, you'll see that the big four, Meta, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they all said they're going to increase their 2026 CapEx spending. They're accelerating. And those, we're talking $100 billion for some of them in 2026. And Nvidia will capture a lot of that. So as a business, Nvidia is doing well, and they will continue to do well in 2026. I think there's still the question about the stock price, and if it was priced to perfection, and maybe some risk sentiment around that. But Nvidia, as a business, will continue to do just fine as we look to their customers who are telling us they're going to continue to buy even more Nvidia.
And Logan, as you take a look at this and this strong quarter that we got from Nvidia, blowing out of the water the expectations that were expected, is this just simply a case of the expectations being too high? I mean, we just heard Austin sort of echo that perhaps that may have been some of what we're seeing here, but is that your belief as well? Why are we selling such a strong quarter?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things that have to be kept in mind. I think the overall sentiment in the market has been, wow, we've had an amazing run with AI. It's been phenomenal. But are the valuations across the board in AI going to be an issue? Are we overanalyzing? Are we overestimating what AI can do in the long term? And the expectations are obviously extremely high, and Nvidia passed those. I mean, you saw the stock in the morning hours of that day after earnings. It was up significantly and then had a sell-off following. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. One, you had that jobs report come out, and then potentially having a Fed slowing down on their rate cut cycle. But two, you also have the competition that's coming into place, specifically with Google and the new chips that Google has been selling, specifically to Meta potentially. I know they're working on a deal. We haven't had the finalization of that, but that's legitimate competition for Nvidia, who's really been the belle of the ball and that everybody has been looking to and everybody's been chasing. So if you get some real competition in this space, price to perfection, whatever you want to call it, Nvidia has been priced of they are the #1 chip seller and are going to continue to be, and they will be for a long time. But if they have any slowdown in growth whatsoever, a $5 trillion company just a few weeks ago is going to have some volatility. So I think it's expected. I think there's a sentiment shift across the board in the AI space for, is this really the valuations we're putting on these AI companies? Is it really justified?
And Austin, I'd love to get your thoughts on that here, too. We got this Google Meta story. We saw a push to the downside for Nvidia, but they're not the only player in this game. And we are talking about AMD. Apple even has its own in-house chips. How much of a threat are these actually to Nvidia's current market dominance, in your opinion?
Yeah, so AMD competes creating GPUs for customers, and then there are several hyperscalers that are making their own ASICs or AI chips, basically AI accelerators. Google has a long history. They're on their 7th generation of TPU. And right now we are compute limited. There's more demand than supply. And so you can argue that people will continue to buy Nvidia, but they're also looking at anywhere they can get compute, they're looking for it. Now, Google has a great chip. They're their own internal customer for this chip. And now they're saying that not only are they going to rent it to others, which they've been doing, but they're looking at potentially selling it to others. The counter argument is that it's not that easy to just suddenly become a merchant vendor of silicon. You have to have software that everyone can use. You have to be able to support it. So we are seeing lots of other companies like Anthropic commit to using Google's TPUs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that anyone's going to stop using Nvidia's GPUs. I do think in the long run, that is competition, and whether it's AMD's GPUs or these AI accelerators, that could put pressure on Nvidia's margins. But I think the pie will continue to expand for the amount of compute needed. And these are just other players who are coming in to take a small slice of that. But Nvidia's, will continue to expand.
And Logan, part of that expansion is potentially this China wild card. We're starting to hear some rumblings that there may be the possibility of selling the H200 into China. That could be a huge market. How big of a swing factor is it if we start to see some of these restrictions lifted? And then how quickly does that translate into revenue growth?
Yeah, I do think it's a wild card. I mean, Jensen Huang said this morning on CNBC that he didn't know for sure, but it would be a great bonus if it did come along, although the business is still strong. And the stock's up this morning on the Synopsys news that they're investing about $2 billion into that company to expand what AI can do. NVIDIA is not going to stop. They have excellent cash flow. Their revenue is unbelievable. I think it was $57 billion at the last earnings report. So they're going to continue to grow and expand and continue to do well. It's just if they really have a $5 trillion valuation, if that's justified, and I think the market's grappling with that to a degree. But there are avenues that this is going to continue to grow. And if you do hit on the China, I think that's an immediately significant pop on the Nvidia stock. I wouldn't chase the stock after that news comes out, and I wouldn't chase it before then, because who knows? We've been going back and forth with China quite a bit on getting any kind of deal done. But understanding what's going on in that China space, and if we do get news, I do think that will move the stock significantly. But then the follow through on that is going to go and kind of revert back to, all right, what are the true valuations and what are the price targets for these AI companies? Is it truly translating to the end buyers, not just the semiconductor names, but the people that are utilizing AI? Is it converting into revenue for these companies long term? And that's the big question.
Well, the markets like that news you just mentioned with Synopsys, Nvidia trading about 1.5% higher this morning. I want to thank you both for being with us to talk about the recent moves we've seen in Nvidia lately. Austin Lyons from Creative Strategies and Logan Gilland from Jewel Financial.